Greetings. Today I wanted to share with you from Prayer Matters, Prayer Matter 12, Pray the 23rd Psalm. This is a favorite of many, probably because the scripture is such a beloved scripture for so many. I have it printed in the book, but I also want to just remind you of the scripture before we start. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 23 is known and beloved by many, especially as a source of comfort in hard seasons of life. I have often prayed it for myself when I have been anxious or afraid or otherwise needed God's comfort. I simply reword the scripture to make it personal, starting with, Lord, you are my shepherd. I trust in your provision. Bless me with times of rest and refreshment. I have personalized it for loved ones by inserting their names throughout and customizing the principles expressed in each verse. I did a sample of this, and I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to insert the name of one of my most beloved family members, Roy. Lord, you are Roy's shepherd. Let him not want. Make Roy right now experience the peace of lying down in green pastures. Lead him beside still waters. Restore his soul. Lead him in paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Though Roy walks through the valley of the shadow of death, let him not be afraid. Give him the strong assurance that you are with him. Comfort him with your rod and staff. Set your promises before Roy like a banquet in the presence of everything that threatens him. Anoint him with the oil of your love. Make his cup overflow with blessings. Let your goodness and mercy follow Roy all the days of his life, and grant him the strong assurance that he will dwell in your house forever. I have prayed this often as a blessing over my children as they grew up, and now I pray it for my grandchildren. I have prayed it for family members and friends who are in the hospital or other difficult circumstances. Psalm 23 is a powerful prayer in any situation, but when, like the psalmist, we are literally walking in the shadow of death, it can enable you to pray when you cannot otherwise string words together. In the 3 weeks that followed the downturn in our son's condition, which I have mentioned in the previous prayer matter, the 23rd Psalm became my go-to prayer. Nights were especially hard as David increasingly struggled. Psalm 23 prayers continually looped through my mind as I prayed for God to be with my son, to comfort and protect him, to give him rest and banish fear. My imagination took every promise of that psalm and turned it into word pictures of prayer. I attribute my ability to remain calm and strong for David through those last weeks to God's leading me to pray those promises and then answering through his strong comfort and presence. Whether praying in good times to bless dear ones, or whether clinging for dear life to the words for yourself or a loved one in darkest times, you would be wise to memorize or to refresh your memory of Psalm 23. Practice turning it into prayer and pray it often. In a few of the prayer matters, I include what I call a personal postscript, and in this one I wrote, shortly before David died, he told me he had rememorized the 23rd Psalm when he entered the hospital the last time. Months later, it dawned on me that God was moving me continually to pray this psalm over David. As he was doing so, he was comforting David through the same verses. I claim that as assurance that God was shepherding David every step through his last valley. Now, every prayer matter includes a section for personal reflection and action. This one includes: focus on the 23rd Psalm over the next weeks. Read it daily. Try reading from different Bible translations. Reflect on the meaning of every phrase. Second, memorize Psalm 23 in the translation that speaks most personally to you. Recite it often until it becomes soundly committed to memory. And I would tell you to do what I continue doing, and that is to make sure that you continue to repeat it off and on as you go forward so that it won't lapse from memory. And then finally, phrase by phrase, turn the psalm into a prayer for yourself or someone else. Ask God to bring to mind those for whom you might pray. Pray it often. I pray that God will bless you as you pray the 23rd Psalm.